Welcome to the Blast Zone, the podcast where we dig up the bombs at Chick Hollywood and try to find out why they went up in flames. This week, the only thing scarier than demons is a dad with sideburns. This is Frailty.
This is a tale of horror and blood. Let's go!
Welcome to the Blast Zone.
Welcome to the Blast Zone.
We are not a podcast about bad movies. We are a podcast about movies that did badly.
That's right.
I'm Jon Drake, in-house film critic of my Shudder account.
And I'm Ian Dukes. I'm a demon with horns and bat wings and summonings about movies.
Movies like Frailty, which we'll be talking about today. But before we get into that, Ian, how are you doing this week?
Well, I'm a little bummed. The last 2 days, I've been fighting ants in my kitchen. I'm lucky it's not a major incursion, and it hardly ever happens in my place, which I'm thankful for. But it's that time of year. Ants start coming inside, looking for Halloween candy.
They're just like me for real.
I had to put some ant baits out, and they seem to be working. And the only problem is that when ant baits work, they attract a shit ton of ants.
Yeah.
They're all coming to eat the bait. So that's kind of nasty, but I have to hope that in another day or so, I will have successfully completed an atrocious ant genocide. And once again, I'll be able to cook and eat in peace.
It's one of those classic, it's going to get worse before it gets better situations with the baits. I know, because I live in the woods. I've never seen a live mouse in my house, but the previous owners had mouse traps. So I was like, I should probably lay down mouse traps.
Okay.
I do the poison ones where it's like they have to go in through this little maze and eat the poison, and then they bring it back to all their friends and they eat the poison and they all die. Again, never seen one, but the traps do like run out of food gradually. So like it freaks me out. I'm like, they're here. I know I can't see them, but they're here somewhere. And
yeah, it's like a scary movie.
But honestly, mice don't bother me as much as bugs.
Yeah.
These are field mice. They're pretty cute. They're small, harmless. They have 4 legs and a tail. Like their anatomy makes sense to me.
Yeah, they're little mammals. They're fairly cute. They just eventually, if there's a bunch of them, they'll leave some gross droppings and pee, and it seems quite unsanitary in your basement areas, or God forbid they get inside. But yeah, individually, I'd rather kiss a mouse than kiss an ant for sure.
And that's the thing with bugs is like their twitchy movements and their alien anatomy is just very unsettling to me.
It's off-putting.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Genetic stuff.
At least I didn't grow up in a place with a lot of bugs. New York City, famously bug-free.
Yeah.
Speaking of the mice, they tend to come inside when it gets cold. That's kind of where we're at right now. I woke up this morning at 6:30 before the sun was even up to get my kids breakfast ready so they can go to school. It was fucking 28 degrees outside.
Damn.
It was like 80 degrees last week. And then it's been like in the high 60s, low 70s all week. Hasn't gotten below like 55 degrees overnight any day.
Okay.
So I had my window cracked. I was in my boxer shorts and my tank top. I was fucking shivering putting peanut butter on toast this morning at 6:30.
I bet. That's cold, man. That's a real shock to the system.
I need a more gradual introduction. I love fall. I love autumn, but we need to get there at a more reasonable pace, not just bam one day.
I hear that. My Southern California blood takes it very hard. Like I talked about last week, I get 2 degrees difference in my bedroom at night. And I'm like, why am I shivering cold? I can't take it. But I welcome it because I know that my skin will start to toughen up for the winter. It's just in summer mode and it's very sensitive and fragile. And over the winter, I sort of acclimate and then I start being okay. Just walking around, my house gets a little cool.
I'd rather be cold than hot any day, though. That's kind of where I'm at with it. I keep it pretty cold. I don't never keep my heat over 60 when I'm sleeping.
Okay. Yeah, that's cold for me. I never get down that far, but that's me.
Speaking of you, not my best segue. Work with what we got. Did you happen to watch anything this week that you want to tell the listeners about?
Speaking of spooky season, I was browsing Netflix and I put on a movie that I thought would be really good and spooky for Blastober, but it turns out Phantom Thread, not spooky at all. There's no phantoms in Phantom Thread.
You master of subterfuge. When we were talking before, I was like, I really got to watch Phantom Thread. And you were like, me too, because you wanted to surprise me with your pick this week. That was very impressive, very sly.
I wanted to hit you with that joke without having tipped it in advance. There is actually one Phantom in Phantom Thread, but I don't want to spoil the movie because you still haven't seen it. Despite it not being spooky, I'm so glad I watched it. I've been kind of working on this personal project to fill in gaps in movies I haven't seen from the great directors of our time. So I thought I'd catch up on this Paul Thomas Anderson from 2017. It's a period romance and it's set in the world of English haute couture stellar in the 1950s, which sounds like a departure for Anderson, or at least a departure from the stuff I want to see from him. But interestingly, in its own way, this movie explores themes that are familiar of his: dysfunctional surrogate families, difficult people. And honestly, Daniel Day-Lewis plays this dressmaker who's not all that much less tortured than Daniel Plainview from There Will Be Blood. Like, this guy's kind of fucked. Less blood, though.
There wasn't even that much blood in There Will Be Blood.
No, it was kind of an unfulfilled promise, honestly.
I think it was like a blood and oil metaphor they were going for there.
There Will Be Oil would have been more accurate, but
not as evocative.
No. But so Daniel Day-Lewis is stellar, as always, and his co-stars are too. I want to shout out Vicky Krieps, who I didn't know, Leslie Manville, who we've probably seen in other stuff, but maybe didn't know her name. They're both incredible. I thought the movie would be dry and would have trouble keeping my attention, and it is subtle. It's not like car chases and explosions, but I found it captivating. The emotions are really big. I felt some really big feelings watching the drama in Phantom Thread unfold, and that's why, spooky or not, I recommend it.
Great. Yeah, I was just saying, I really want to check that one out. Some people I respect in the movie world hold it in very high regard, and somehow I missed it when it came out. Now I've heard you also are a fan, and I had to take the 3 hours or whatever it's going to take to check it out. Is it a long one?
Yeah, it's semi-long. I think it's over 2, but it's not crazy long.
Hey, semi-long. I'll take it any day of the week. You know what I mean?
Yo.
So you said it doesn't have a lot of car chases or explosions. I also watched a Paul Thomas Anderson movie this week, but it did have car crashes and car chases and explosions.
What?
It was one battle after another.
Oh, you got the cool one. Okay.
I got the exciting one. So much has been written and said about this movie already, especially by the time this comes out, which will be a couple of weeks after I've seen it. It's everything you've read and more. Career best performance for DiCaprio. Wow. Chase Infinity is an absolute revelation. Teyana Thompson, great. I knew her as an R&B singer. I did not know she had these acting chops. She's electric in it. And
wow.
Benicio del Toro giving one of the all-time just most likable characters in a movie. That's a high bar for Benicio, because he always can turn on the charm. Even when he's playing villainous roles, he's very hard to dislike.
Sure.
But this is somehow his most likable role you've ever seen him in yet, and he just leaves such an impression on you and not that much screen time. It's a wild ride. Sean Penn is also really good in it. I have a personal distaste for Sean Penn, so I went into it expecting to hate every minute he was on screen, and I have to admit that he didn't quite win me over because his character is deplorable and you're not supposed to enjoy his scenes, but they were captivating, to say the least.
I feel like that same thing happened to me with Sean Penn and Licorice Pizza. I didn't expect him to be palatable, and I'm like, oh, that was a good turn.
It's crazy because, like, I was talking about that Ty Sheridan movie he's in about paramedics, and he's in like 5 of those movies a year, and then just every 3 or 4 years PTA calls him up and he's like, hey, do you want to be in an actual good movie? He's like, yes, please. But much has been said about the big budget of One Battle After Another. It's up above $150 million by some reports, and it's doing well at the box office. It's PTA's biggest movie ever at this point. It's already surpassed his biggest gross so far. That's great, but it's still well below profitability. So while that is unfortunate, it does mean we may get the chance to talk about it in greater detail later this year or early next year.
Yeah, unless it suddenly catches fire at the box office through the holiday season and stays in theaters for a couple months. I don't see how we could resist putting that in the January year in review, because I haven't seen it yet and I'm already super excited.
The only way I don't think we cover it is if it's not available to watch at home because they put it back in theaters for an Oscar push or something.
Oh, that could happen.
But if it's available, I think, we got to cover it. But I'm still holding out hope that it turns a corner and word of mouth is strong enough to get some people into it. I saw some troubling tweets about it where somebody was like, my film professor told us our homework was to go watch One Battle After Another, and only 2 kids in the entire class had even heard of it.
Oh, weird. In a film class.
In a film class. Now, they might not be film students. They might just be taking film as an elective, but that's still crazy to me.
Show some respect for the art form.
Jeez Louise. Yeah, there's not that many movies coming out every week. How are you not aware that PTA's biggest and probably best reviewed movie yet is in theaters?
I guess that's why you go to college, to learn things.
I guess. Frailty, Ian. This is a small movie, not a very well-known movie. Did you have any familiarity with this film? Had you heard about it, seen it?
I honestly can't recall ever hearing about the movie, which when I think about it, actually makes it pretty special, because I looked through Matthew McConaughey's full filmography and I'm like, I've heard of at least 90% of the feature films he's been in, and this one slipped under the radar. So that's kind of an achievement.
It's a small movie, and it feels small when you're watching it. It's almost like a stage play. It's got that kind of vibe to it where you could probably pull it off. It's very few sets, a very small cast, and not a lot of special effects needed.
No.
But I did not see this one in theater. I wasn't even aware of it, I don't think. But it was, a kind of rent a DVD from the local store, and we'll all sit around and underage drink and watch a movie situation like a year or 2 after it came out. And I had kind of the perfect level of recollection, because I remembered that I liked it and it was creepy, but not really scary. But I did not remember anything else about it, like any of the twists, any of the plot details. All I knew was like, this is a creepy good movie and it lost money, so we can do it on Blastober Blastober. And man, everything I just said is 100% true. It is creepy. It is good. It is well acted, well directed, written, paced. Just an absolute banger. Like, this is a movie I could see myself going back to regularly.
It's a really endearing film for a lot of reasons. And as you allude to there, we should probably say at the top of this, it kind of sucks to cover movies like this that we know that hardly anyone has seen. It's really good. We both really like it. And it's a movie that's absolutely a deep mystery with massive twisty stuff happening at the end, because we can't talk about the movie without 100% spoiling that stuff. So as much as I never want to ask anyone to pause, let alone turn off our podcast once you've gotten this far, it's like, man, you might want to see this movie before you hear us spoil it, because it's really fun.
It's free on Plex. You can stream it on Plex for free.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I streamed it on Tubi.
It's on Tubi for free as well. Yeah, there's lots of ways to watch it free.
Find it on Peebo.
Get it on Gloomsy. No, but you're 100% correct. I would encourage everybody to watch it before they finish listening to the episode. But with that in mind, I meant to talk to you about this off mic, but I might as well do it live for the listeners.
Sure.
I think we should only reveal the twists when the movie does.
Okay.
You know, sometimes we talk ahead and put things into context based on what we'll know by the end of the movie. And I think we should try to avoid that with this one.
All right, let's try that. It might be tricky, but I think we can pull that off. And we kind of put the synopsis together in a way that tries to keep the cards close until they actually unfold chronologically in the movie. So if you don't see the movie, at least you can have some of the fun hearing us reveal the twists.
And like Ian said, it is a movie with big twists, but it's that rare twisty movie that I think would have worked just fine if it was a face value situation, because it's so well crafted and well acted that you'd still be interested. The twist enhances the movie for sure, but it's not totally necessary.
No, that's a great observation. The more you watch this movie and think about it, my respect for the screenwriting just goes up and up. That's one of the big reasons. It's like the reason you don't sit there waiting for the twist is it works. With the information you have, the movie that you're watching is pretty compelling.
Yeah.
It's still a really good story, and it just takes on layers when you learn some new information at the very end. But yeah, it's really endearing. The writing is so good. The actors, the performances are very humble. It's not showy. It's not Daniel Day-Lewis performances. It's just solid, and it's got an Americana kind of charm, like small town America.
Very bucolic setting, yeah. I was trying to think of whenever anybody raises their voice in the movie, it's probably like less than a handful of times when anybody actually like shouts for a movie with several murders in it. Like,
yeah, there's kind of no cool kills because it keeps the killing off screen. It has one special effect, maybe two. One of them's a shaft of lights, not much of anything. And it's kind of a kid drama. It's like this old-fashioned, wholesome thing. It's a movie about two boys trying to deal with something difficult in their childhood that the grown-up world is imposing on them. And their particulars are super weird and scary in their case, but it's actually really relatable because every kid goes through that, like having to deal with hard grown-up stuff at an age where you wish you didn't have to.
Yeah, it really reminded me of the It miniseries from 1990 in that respect, but much better made. Just like it's a slice of life for these kids with all this just like horrifying shit right beneath the surface in the background for most of it. And then occasionally it bubbles up to the forefront.
Yeah, it's wild. And we still don't want to spoil Weapons, but that's a lot of what Weapons is about. A kid who has to deal with some really nasty adult shit, but you recognize the way kids handle even extreme stuff and go, I guess this is my life. Let me try to live my way through it. And it's just very relatable.
They're resilient, those kids. And they have to be to live in America in 2025.
They do. Thank God they've got those flexible little brains. Let's hope they get through this.
Did you want me to get into the making of the movie, such as it is?
Yeah, let's hear how this thing happened.
Some movies sneak up on you, not with loud scares or special effects, but with something quieter and much more unsettling. Frailty, released in 2002, is one of those films. It marked the directorial debut of Bill Paxton, a beloved character actor best known for Aliens, Twister, and Apollo 13. He wasn't trying to reinvent horror so much as remind audiences that faith, madness, and evil can all wear the same face.
Although wearing a face that leans towards evil.
Written by first-time screenwriter Brett Hanley, Frailty tells its story like a confession. It begins with Matthew McConaughey walking into an FBI office and calmly explaining that his father was a demon hunter.
Okay, Pop.
The film unfolds through flashbacks as Paxton, who also stars, plays that father, a man convinced that God has ordered him and his sons to destroy demons living among ordinary people. Paxton's direction is surprisingly confident. Though the story is set in small-town Texas, the film was shot across Southern California in towns like Covina, Norwalk, Orange, Sun Valley, and Whittier.
The people in Whittier, they're more clever with words.
The neighborhoods look ordinary and sun-bleached, which makes the creeping horror feel even more real. The murders are rarely shown in any detail, but the dread comes from the conviction of the characters and how easy it is to believe when the voice you hear feels divine. Critics gave the film mostly positive reviews, with Roger Ebert famously giving the film 4 stars, calling it an extraordinary work. There's no cheap irony here, just sincerity pushed to its breaking point. Behind the scenes, Paxton treated every detail like a character, even the axe he wields, which he named Otis after a homeless man he met in Pasadena while scouting locations. He wanted it to feel personal, like a family heirloom passed down from one generation of killers to the next.
Passed down tenderly, right through a man's skull.
The ending, with its Twilight Zone-style twist, leaves the audience questioning whether this was all delusion or divine justice. Though the film received strong reviews, it only earned $17 million on an $11 million budget. It opened in 9th place and never found a large audience, but it quietly built a reputation over time. Stephen King, Sam Raimi, and James Cameron have all praised it, and horror fans now regard it as one of the most underrated psychological thrillers of the 2000s. For McConaughey, it was a rare detour into darker territory before his long romantic comedy phase.
Who called it Frailty and not The Beheading Planner?
For Paxton, it was proof that he had more range than Hollywood gave him credit for. He would only direct one more film before his death in 2017, but Frailty remains his legacy as a filmmaker, a slow, tragic story about belief, family, and the monsters we convince ourselves are real.
Because the movie is subtle, I totally agree with you that Paxton's direction is very confident for a first-time director. Obviously, he was very experienced at making movies.
Clearly was paying attention when working with some of the great directors he acted for.
And it's neat because the movie's not flashy, like we said. There's almost no action, and so a lot of it's just functional. There's a few things visually that are interesting. He keeps it interesting, and he makes it spooky with some fun camera work and a select few points. But for me, his main achievement as a director is that this script is so complicated. The action plays out on the surface level, and the whole time you're trying to figure out what's true, what exactly is real, which characters do we believe, what are these characters seeing, what are they believing, and what's not really real, what might be in their minds. And so each of his actors has to convey quite a lot in scenes where they're just being touched on the head or watching a person being touched on the head who's freaking out. And each of those emotions and things has to read 2 ways in order for the twist to work, and they do. So like just getting those performances out of his actors and then capturing them all and being able to put them into the film, I think, was a really nice achievement.
Yeah, I think he consulted with Cameron a lot. I think they remained friends after their collaborations, where Paxton was an actor in some James Cameron movies. Near Dark as well, which was not a James Cameron movie, but it was directed by his wife at the time, Catherine Bigelow. So I think they had a friendship.
Neat.
And I think Cameron gave him some pointers. But this is really like, for a first-time filmmaker, and only a 2-time filmmaker in his entire career, which is crazy to me, how good this movie is and how many industry insiders seemed to be quite fond of it. You would think somebody would have snatched that up and given him the shot. And it's not like he didn't want to. He made statements throughout the years when people had talked to him about Frailty in interviews saying, I want to direct another movie.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's too bad he didn't get the chance, because based on this, I would have been there in the theater trying to keep it out of the blast zone.
Yeah, it's too bad. It really is, like you mentioned, it does feel like a play. I'm wondering, did Bill Paxton do a lot of theater?
I don't know. That's a great question. Let me briefly pull up his Wikipedia and take a look at his credits.
Yeah.
No, he was a screen actor, and that's about it.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, Wikipedia says he moved to LA to try to be a director, and then he gave that up and decided to be an actor. So I guess he's not bringing that theatricality to this movie because he's wedded to the stage with a deep love of it, but it comes across.
He did Terminator, Aliens, True Lies, and Titanic, so he was a frequent collaborator of Cameron's.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So sometimes we say it feels like a play about movies that we don't like because they're like too static, too talky, too formal in their style.
Too Evan Hansen-y.
Okay, that's a whole different kind of musical theater production that we had our complaints about. But this feels like a play I would want to see, unlike Evan Hansen. And it also has a shape, despite it being small in its scope and its action. The young Fenton part of the story escalates with each new chapter. So that feels like it very much has momentum and it builds. And even the framing device, the narration by the McConaughey character, makes the effort to shift across 3 different settings. So it doesn't get stale because it starts in the office, it moves to the car, it moves to the final scene. So like it's got just enough cinematic liveliness to it so that it doesn't get really stale. And I never felt like I was squirming in my seat.
Yeah, I mean, plus they packed the movie with not quite the A-list, but the best of the B-list. Like Powers Boothe as the FBI agent is just super reliable in that kind of hard-boiled role. And McConaughey was not Matthew McConaughey as we know him today yet, but he had chops for sure. And I think he kind of was out to prove something with this movie because he puts in a really layered performance that's pretty impressive. And Paxton himself, I don't think anyone would ever have called him like an A-list actor. He was a character actor, but he was one of the best ones you could possibly get. And he deployed himself to great effectiveness.
Yeah, I would say both their performances are pretty subtle. And so I would attribute that to Paxton saying, hey, this movie has people who are potentially crazed either psychologically or through religious visions, but nobody plays it like that.
Yeah.
They're like normal people just trying to deal, just trying to live. So it's nice. It's surprising when you turn on a spooky, scary movie, and we talk all about postmodern horror and the current wave of elevated horror and all this stuff. But those things,
I hate that term.
those forms revel in their very cinematic things. This movie is such a throwback compared to all that, and yet it feels progressive and new and fresh in that way because it doesn't lean on special effects and loud jump scares. It's just a creepy-ass story.
Speaking of story, do you want to start going through the story of Frailty?
Here we go. One rainy night in the year 2000, a man played by Matthew McConaughey walks into the Dallas headquarters of the FBI. He introduces himself as Fenton Meeks, and he says he has important information on the serial killer known as the God's Hand Killer. The man in charge of the case, Agent Wesley Doyle, played by Powers Boothe, takes him into his office to hear his story. Meeks tells Doyle the killer was his younger brother Adam, that Adam is now dead, and that per their childhood promise, Fenton buried his brother in a rose garden in their hometown of Thurman, Texas. But the story of how his brother came to be the killer is a long one, and he intends to tell Agent Doyle the whole thing. It started back in 1979. The two young Meeks brothers lived with their widower father, played by Bill Paxton. One night, Mr. Meeks wakes his boys to tell them he's received a vision from God. An angel has told him that his new secret, special purpose in life will be to destroy demons who are walking the earth disguised as humans. Signs lead Meeks to a spot where he collects the tools of his new trade, a length of pipe, an axe, and a pair of work gloves. Fenton thinks his dad is losing his mind, but young Adam believes everything his dad says. Then the angel delivers Meeks a list of names. First on the list is a nurse named Cynthia. Meeks bonks her with the pipe and brings her back home. He has the boys watch as he removes the gloves and lays hands on the woman. At his touch, Meeks appears to have visions of the supposed demon's work. Little Adam says he sees it too, but Fenton is horrified that his father is about to kill a woman, which he does with the axe. And in the dead of night, Meeks makes his boys help bury the body in the public rose garden next to their house.
I thought it would be pretty funny if God kept sending him new weapons. He was like a pipe and then like a wrench and a rope. It's like, oh, God just wants to play Clue. That's all. He's a big Clue fan.
The choice of weapons is one of the semi-humorous things in the movie. It helps throw the absurdity of this. Like a literal angel is giving this guy visions, and then he brings home this little length of lead pipe. And it's like, what is that? That's our holy weapon?
It's barely even long enough to get any kind of like leverage when you swing it. It does not look very like at first he's supposed to kill people with that. Good luck, man. But no, he just knocks him out with that. And then
the pipe is for bonking and the axe is for destroying.
The pipe is for bonking. You know what I'm saying? Sorry. This is not the movie for these jokes. Yeah, you had a note here about the opening credits. You really started from the beginning with your critique.
Sometimes I put notes in that don't really need to be talked about, but it comes up a bunch on the Blast Zone. This is one of those movies. It uses that device where it puts newspaper headlines under the opening credits to introduce you to the fact that there's a serial killer out there. It's called God's Hand. He's been doing all these murders. He's on the loose. I think initially when we started seeing those in the movies that we covered, we were like, oh, is this corny? Is this bad? And the more I see it, the more I'm like, this is awesome. I love this. Give me headlines or newsreel shit in the beginning of every movie to set me up.
I think there is a difference in like, what was that movie?
We saw it in Captive State.
Captive State was the one I was thinking of. Thank you. I needed that name pulled from my memory. The difference between a movie like Captive State deploying that device and Frailty deploying it is that if you miss the credits from Frailty, you don't miss any valuable information. That's all going to be revealed to you as the movie unfolds. This is just teasing you. Captive State is like, we're just going to do an exposition dump over the credits because we can't figure out an artful, good way to actually give you this information through the actual storytelling.
Yes, this one is much more mild and you can get right back up to speed if you were focused on your jujubes during the credits. But we saw it also in Underwater. We saw it in The Creator, I think, had like a bunch of newsreels.
Yeah, Creator was actual news footage and Underwater. But I have a lot of time for both those movies, so maybe I'm just more charitable to them. But yeah, it did not bother me in those. But I think I'm onto something there. I bet if we went back and rewatched The Creator and Underwater, you could surmise all that just by being an attentive watcher of the film.
It's a balance. It's like extra bonus information. It helps set the scene, helps set the mood, but you're not lost if you didn't catch something, which would be annoying.
So the movie opens right after those great Ian-approved credits with this kind of spooky FBI station. And I think there was some pushback from the studio on actually how empty the FBI station was.
Oh.
They were like, an FBI station, even in the middle of the night, should be semi-bustling. But Paxton was like, like, I don't want it to feel like a real functioning police station. I want it to feel like a haunted house. There's, I think, 3 people in there when this is all going down. And then they shuffle out, and then it's just Doyle and Fenton. And I think that added a lot of atmosphere, this kind of big empty space, lights off, and you can't quite see all the corners of this big FBI bullpen.
It's neat. And that felt real enough to me.
Me too. I don't imagine FBI work, like there's a ton of people on duty at midnight at the FBI headquarters or whatever.
I guess I never thought about that too much. Are they more like bureaucratic workers that just clock in and clock out, or they're like cops where they have to stay there and field calls in the middle of the night? I don't know.
I don't know that the FBI is fielding calls like that.
There must be a switchboard for tips, but nowadays they have cell phones. So if there's like specific stuff for agents on cases.
But that's just another example of Paxton being confident in what he was doing and not giving in to the studio.
Yeah, you get weirded out from the FBI headquarters right away. And there's an ambulance parked outside, and the receptionist was like, I don't know what that's doing there. You're like, something's weird here.
And then McConaughey walks in all creepy, big bags under his eyes. It does not help the situation feel less creepy.
I kind of like his Carhartt work coat that he's got on, barn jacket or whatever you call that thing.
I have something similar, but I don't rock it quite as well as Matthew. You know?
Yeah, he's an interesting cat because you talked about his career. His career is quite long. It started really early with Dazed and Confused, where he's made a big splash, but then that was at least 10 years before this, and then it took lots of turns. So I couldn't place how old he was in this movie because I watched it before. I looked it up and got the dates on everything and where his big milestone movies are. And you can't tell if he's still young in this or like in the middle of his career or what. He's kind of in the thick of it, but it's nice and it works for the character. This movie is like a little side role that he did that sort of stands outside of time and outside of the rest of his career.
It's hard for me to, I was a little too young and not quite tuned in enough to the inside baseball of Hollywood at the time to recognize where he was in his career. Like you said, I'm looking through his filmography now. Yeah, after Dazed and Confused, it almost like it took a hard turn down almost immediately to Angels in the Outfield and The Return of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre were his next 2 movies.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Both really bad movies. If you think Angels in the Outfield is a good movie, you don't. You were just a child when you saw it. Trust me. I rewatched it not too long ago. But then like in 96, he had A Time to Kill, which is pretty good. Contact, which I remember being fairly well received. But then Ed TV, The Wedding Planner. There's Frailty, Reign of Fire in 2002. And then it's just like How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, Tiptoes, the Gary Oldman, Patricia Arquette movie about like little people.
Oh, see, that's one of that 10% that I hadn't heard of.
It's famously bad. Sahara, which was a big bomb and a miss, failure to launch. I think Tropic Thunder in 2008 is when he turned the corner and started being respected in Hollywood again. But yeah, this one does feel like he made it in this wilderness period of his career. And maybe that's part of the reason the movie didn't get as much recognition, because if that's your big draw, he wasn't quite as big a draw at the time as maybe you'd hoped.
Yeah, it's interesting. So it's like Frailty was made simultaneously with The Wedding Planner, which is him in his full pop rom-com mode, which is funny how those juxtapose. And then the next year was Reign of Fire, which we covered, where he played the weirdo villain.
Not a villain so much as like
a rival antagonist.
Yeah, he's the antagonist, but not the villain, I wouldn't say. Like he has the same end goal as our protagonist, but just wildly different methods, and also doesn't really care who gets hurt in the way.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's crazy to see him like, he's a gregarious guy, a very outgoing guy in interviews and a lot of his performances. And like, he is so intense and quiet in this role. The obvious comparison is Rust Cole from True Detective.
That's true.
This feels like a precursor, because he's just very capable, but man of few words. And what he does say is weird and tough to parse.
I was alluding to earlier, every character is either hiding something or has a point of view that you're not sure whether to trust. And McConaughey is no exception. So he's playing a guy that's been through a lot of shit. He's telling you the story of his family, which is totally fucked up. So it's normal to think that he's just weird and shell-shocked. But Powers Boothe starts to sniff that as the FBI agent. He's like, I think you're hiding something from me, buddy.
That Powers Boothe, you can't get anything by him. It seems like he was born to be a cop and decided to be an actor instead. So they were just like, we're going to make you either a cop or a military guy in every movie you ever star in, because he's damn good at it. R.I.P. to a real one.
Yeah, R.I.P. Powers Boothe.
But then we've got to talk about some of the young guns in this movie. We got Matt O'Leary as young Fenton. That is a good child performance.
Yes.
Which the movie does absolutely not work if you don't empathize with young Fenton's point of view.
Exactly. He's the sympathetic character. He's very convincing. I always like when a kid is played smart. Fenton is the smart kid. He has his little brother who's more gullible. He's at a younger age. And Fenton is sharp, and he's got
a little shit, let's be honest. Adam.
But I mean, like, immediately you can see in his reactions to all the stuff in this crazy shit starts going on around him when his dad starts bringing home demons to slay. He sees through it. You always see it on his face, and his reactions always feel real. He's like, Dad, that's crazy. You're killing somebody. This is not a demon. What are you thinking? And that's a lot to carry at that age, and I thought he did really well.
What makes it all the more devastating is they do spend a decent amount of time. It's not a long movie. It's 98 minutes long, but they spend enough time kind of setting up this family and the life they live as one that's probably pretty hard scrabble, but there's a lot of love in their house.
Yes.
And it makes what happens to their family pretty devastating. And that's why, like, when young Fenton starts to push back against what his dad's saying, it's not with this rebellious streak or anger. He's almost like pleading with him.
Yeah.
Like he just wants things to go back to the way they were. And you need that. That grounds the movie and it anchors it to this deteriorating family unit that their mom's dead. They have no other relatives. It is literally just these three men forever. And Fenton sees this for what it is. Like, this is jeopardizing our family.
Yeah, and Paxton plays the dad. He plays him very subtle but very loving. And the movie takes its time with enough scenes and moments to be like, no, this is genuine. This is a guy who really loves these kids, really supports them. And so you're like, he's going crazy, right? Because Fenton is the audience point of view character. So you're like, oh shit, my dad's going crazy. He's killing people, but he's such a good dad. What do I do about this? But the dad has the same thing. He's like, I've been given a mission by God and my son is disobeying me and I got to deal with my son, but I still love him. I can't like abandon him just because he's not faithful enough. So it's a really interesting tension that goes two ways.
Yeah. And what I liked the movie did is the dad's not always harping on the mission and the demons and stuff. He brings it up and then they even make a point to say, like, we didn't talk about it again for weeks. Then everything kind of went back to normal. But then once in a while, he'd be like, oh, look what I got. God came to me and gave me a length of rope. And then like, fuck, I thought he forgot. But like the dad going back to being that loving dad after this vision and in between these demon slayings just keeps driving that point home about like how devastating this must be for the kids.
It's a really warm family drama. And then the first really creepy moment of the movie happens when it gets real. Up to this, it's been, dad's kind of kooky. He's collecting weapons. He's listing names. And then he brings the nurse home.
It kind of looks like a nurse Halloween costume, doesn't it, though?
I guess it's 1979. She's wearing an old-timey nurse costume. She's tied up. Fenton shines his flashlight on her. And it's one of those things that I love about horror movies. And I remember calling this out when we watched *Malignant* back in the day, is that sometimes the scariest thing in the horror movie is the reaction of the person who's afraid. And she's got duct tape over her mouth. She's tied up. Her mascara is totally run. And she gives these reactions. That actress gives some fantastic reaction faces into this flashlight in the middle of the night that are so creepy. That gave me chills.
Yeah, that is Missy Kreider. I wanted to shout her out. She's not a no-name actor. She's not a big name either, but she's been in lots of stuff, had like recurring roles on 24 and Destiny 7, which was a sci-fi series from not too long ago. She still has stuff in production. So yeah, she's a real actor and you could tell she doesn't get more than one or two lines in the movie, but yeah, her reactions are genuine and very well done. But I didn't want to brush over the actual vision because we do get to see the vision when Bill Paxton gets his list.
The one special effect we mentioned in this movie.
He's under a car. There's sparks flying everywhere, by the way. He should have a mask on or something, but I know it's the 70s. And a literal fucking angel rappels down from the ceiling and it kind of looks like Paul Mescal. It kind of looks like the creepy Burger King. He's got shades of both.
A little bit of both.
Maybe we'll put a photo of him in the show notes.
Yeah.
And he just kind of like stares up at him, transfixed for a minute, and then he starts writing the names down. So again, the movie being very coy, very crafty. This could be just a hallucination of a crazy person, but like he's writing down real names of real people, obviously, you know, like, so there's something there.
The movie gives you just enough because it's kind of easy to assume, oh, he's going crazy. This is about a serial killer who thinks he's charged by God, but he's crazy. And Fenton, who's entirely the reasonable one in this, takes that point of view. So it's very easy to convince you that side. But then there's these little things. You're like, wow, that vision of the angel was like pretty specific. How did we get to see that? Was that just in his head? How did he know these people? Because he wrote these names down in his auto mechanic shop. Like he didn't pull them out of a phone book, but yet they're real people and he finds them later. So like, how did he do that?
Yeah. In the movie, I thought it was a nice touch that young Adam, played by Jeremy Sumpter, for Friday Night Lights fans, that's J.D. McCoy.
Oh, neat.
Yeah. I was like, I know that kid. So I had to dig deeper and that's where I know him from.
Crossover.
But when he gives his dad a list of names too, and he's like, isn't this the kid that was picking on you last week? He's like, yeah, he's a demon. We got to kill him. And instead of being mad, he just kind of like rustles his hair. He's like, get out of here, you fucking rascal.
Yeah, he's like, you can't do that. The dad's very serious about this. He has rules. He's not bloodthirsty. He's like, that would be murder. That's fake. But the list I got from the angel is real. And those are demons. Those are the only ones we can kill. And Adam plays another counterbalance to like, what do I believe in this movie? Because he says, oh, I see the demons when his dad lays hands on her head. And there's this sound effect and this impression that he's seeing something, but you don't see what it is. And Adam says, oh, yeah, I saw it too. Fenton's like, I didn't see anything. That was bullshit. But Adam's already proven himself unreliable because he made up his own list of demons. demons to
Right.
kill. So is he going along
It
with
was a
it?
smart move by the screenplay to already cast doubt on Adam's reliability. So that way, when he claims to have seen the visions, you could think he's just bullshit and he wants to go along with his dad because it sounds cool.
Exactly. But every one of these things is balanced just enough where it could tip either way. At any one moment, you could be like, oh, I'm starting to think it's this. It's very well written and very well performed.
All right. Was there anything we missed or should I head on to Act 2?
Let's see what happens next.
Agent Doyle is still dubious at this Fenton Meeks and his tales, but Meeks offers to show him the graves and prove it. So Meeks tells the next chapters of his childhood story as he sits handcuffed in the back of Doyle's car on the long, rainy drive to Thurman, Texas. Back in 1979, for his second victim, Mr. Meeks forces young Fenton to help him ambush a man in a parking lot in broad daylight. Fenton resists and voices his doubts, but his dad claims they won't get caught because God will shield them from the eyes of any onlookers. After this killing, Dad tells Fenton the angel came to him and told him something bad about Fenton that Mr. Meeks doesn't want to believe. To try to set his boy right, Meeks orders Fenton to dig an enormous 10-foot pit in the backyard and to pray to God for strength through the difficult work. But Fenton digs with spite in his heart, and he abandons all faith in God during the ordeal. When the pit is dug, Meeks has the boys help drag the shed on top of it and turns it into a cellar. But when their father abducts his next demon victim and brings him to the cellar, Fenton can't watch. He bolts out of there and runs straight to the town sheriff. Fenton tells the sheriff that his dad is a killer and coaxes the dubious old-timer to come back to the cellar to see. But when they return, Meeks has cleaned everything up and hidden the body. And just as the sheriff goes to leave, Mr. Meeks clubs him on the head. But Meeks vomits as he brings down the axe, and he weeps with remorse, because in his eyes, this is the first time he's killed an actual human being, not a demon like the others. As a punishment, Dad locks Fenton in the empty cellar. For a full week, Fenton suffers in the dark, hungry and alone, with only the occasional visit from his little brother Adam, who brings him water. Finally, Mr. Meeks retrieves his boy from the cellar in a state of physical and mental collapse. As he recovers, the young Fenton proclaims that he's now been visited by God as well. He's sorry for ever doubting his father, and he's finally ready to take part in destroying the demons.
It really does escalate in Act 2 there to some gnarly stuff.
Edward March. They really picked the most basic looking dude to play this quote unquote demon. Just looks like a middle-aged Texan man. Good casting. Like a lot of these small parts are very convincingly cast, and they're not asked to do too much in the acting department, so that's fine too. But like he seems genuinely helpful.
Yeah, like these are the demons? You want us to believe these are demons? It helps with the disbelief.
Yeah, there's only one time later where there's a guy who's supposed to be a demon that actually seems like a demon. He's a real dickhead.
Yeah, you're like, this guy sucks. Go ahead and kill this one.
But Edward March is just the most mild-mannered looking dude you could ever imagine. And when Fenton is trying to dupe him by pretending his dog went under his car, he seems genuinely concerned and helpful.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, well, let's take a look and see if we can get him out of there. And then bam, whacked over the head. But smart filmmaking too to make them the most innocuous looking people.
It's good. And there's another clue in that. This guy seems harmless. Dad says he's a demon, and they managed to knock him out and drag him into a van in a parking lot of not like a really busy store, but there's people around.
It's not empty for sure. Yeah.
So you're like, was Dad right? Did God really shield all the onlookers' eyes and nobody saw them? Or were they just pretty quick about it and nobody noticed?
Movie's still playing coy. Let's talk about this pit.
Yeah.
This is less a pit and more a feat of engineering. This is crazy. He digs, what do you say? Like it was 15 feet wide, 15 feet long, 10 feet deep.
Yeah.
My man didn't even pull out a tape measure. He just started fucking digging and he did it. That's crazy.
Yeah. These are kind of like biblical trials. Like he's asking him to build an ark or something, you know, like
Evan Almighty.
it's the impression that Meeks, he doesn't know what to do. He's trying stuff out to try to bring his son around. And so I guess he's reaching for biblical style trials to put him through. And that's a big hole. I don't know if a kid could actually dig that hole. Now they give him a few days and he definitely.
He said he wants half of it done the first day by the time he gets home from work.
Yeah.
And even
Fenton acknowledges is like,
yeah, that's crazy. Like,
but Fenton's doing it to spite him now, and he's not wearing gloves. His hands are falling apart, and he's going out there late into the night. So he's tearing himself up. But like we said, kids are resilient, and he manages to dig this huge asshole.
Yeah, I don't have much to say about the pit except that if Fenton ever wanted to start a contracting business, putting in storm cellars, he would have very low overhead. He just needs a shovel and a glass of water, like once a day, I think.
Exactly.
And he'll be good to go.
His brother to bring him a glass of water.
Yeah, he hires his brother, his water boy, but that's it. That's his only other employee.
He's got a lot of talent. He's a tough kid.
He is.
I mean, part of that's what endears you to him. It's like, this kid's in the right, and I get it. But he's becoming more, he's like Pharaoh. He hardens his heart in the midst of this challenge that's supposed to open him up to God. He's like, no, I hate God now. I never prayed. And you suck, Dad.
There is no God, he says.
He gets dark.
So as we're endearing ourselves to Fenton, what's the opposite of that? Because then we meet the sheriff. And boy, this guy's a fucking crank. Fenton's like, Sheriff, there's a crime that was committed. And he's like, you got a lot of fucking nerve coming up here and making up stories like that. And I was like, do your fucking job, man. He's not like a 6-year-old. He's a kid who's old enough to know reality from fiction. Like, I would at least give him less of a hard time before going to investigate whatever he's telling you.
I know. Why does the sheriff hate kids so much? He's worse than Ebenezer Scrooge. Like, his default position is that children are no good, dirty, rotten liars. And you have to like punish them for saying anything to you. Like, he's not even curious. Like, where did this come from? What's going on? Are you okay, young man? He's just like, you piece of shit. Get out of my office. Okay, I'm going to come with you and talk to your dad and we're going to set you straight.
We're going to take turns like beating the shit out of you for lying to us. And he even says like, all kids go through a phase where they don't agree with you on anything. My kids grew out of it and yours will too. It's like, I bet your kids don't even fucking visit you. This guy sucks. This guy sucks so much. But as bad as this dude is, Mr. Meeks is still very upset to kill him, indicating that he was not on his list.
Right.
And that's a problem.
He had to kill him because the angel told him they absolutely had to keep it secret. So he's still doing what he has to do per the instructions of the angel, but he really didn't want to kill a human being. He's saying, I've never done it before. And Paxton's reaction is very visceral. And you're like, whatever's going on, he really believes it. Like, he really hates that he killed this man.
Yeah, whatever you think is real, it crystallizes that Paxton's character absolutely thinks what he's doing is the abject truth. And when he kills a demon, quote unquote, he has almost no reaction to it. When he kills this guy, he's crying, he's throwing up everywhere. It's a really dramatic, it's the only time he gets really dramatic in the entire movie.
Yeah.
And that's just smart filmmaking.
And you pointed out the blood. So he's like really bloody after this killing. And there's very little blood with the demons.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if that was a filmmaking flourish just to try to show the difference in maybe how he sees himself after this. He has literal blood on his hands now, and before he didn't. But it was very crafty to differentiate between these killings so much.
And they didn't even chop the sheriff up. Something that's shown very subtly in the film, but I really picked up on it in the second watch, is the demons not only have to be killed with this axe, they have to be chopped into pieces and they have to be buried in pieces. So they carry them to the rose garden in these hefty bags. They're in black trash bags.
Yeah.
But early on, he's like, no, you can't just throw the trash bags in there. You have to open the bag and dump out the demon parts that we chopped up. Because there's like, the angel gave him very specific rules about how to dispose of these demon bodies.
God gave him like a fucking IKEA brochure, like a instruction manual. All right, so you got to sever at the joints here.
It's very complicated, and yet there's very little blood. Like, there's several times where the dad brings the axe down and the kids are standing 3 feet away. No one's ever splashed with blood. It feels like maybe there is something. Maybe they're demons and they're not filled with blood. It's weird.
They're filled with evil.
Or they're just hollow inside.
And then there's the cellar ordeal where, you know, after this kind of outburst that Fenton has, his dad locks him in the cellar. And this is where, as bad as we feel for Fenton because of what his dad is putting him through, it's blatantly obvious that the dad is doing what he thinks is right. So it's easy to stay empathetic towards him. But when he locks his son in a fucking cellar, doesn't even bother to leave the light in the shed on so like he can have some light.
No light, not even like a bucket to piss in.
What's he doing? He probably doesn't have much to piss or shit because he also doesn't feed him while he's in there.
He doesn't feed him. And I wrote a week in the synopsis, but on second watch, I realized
I think it's longer.
He checks on him after a week. And that's when Fenton says there is no God. And so he goes, okay, he slams the cellar door back on him. And then he's like, it was weeks later before we got out of there.
He said it felt like weeks after that. Yeah, it could have been another week. It could have been 2. Even if it was a few days after that, that's still crazy. And I know people can survive with just water for much longer than you'd expect, but not in any kind of good health.
Yeah, his brother has to pour water through this knothole into his mouth like once a day.
Yeah.
It's half a cup of water that way.
Because the cellar door is literally nailed shut.
He nails it shut. It really makes him seem cruel. But then if you do take the time to see it from the dad's perspective, you realize that by this point, the angel has told the dad, your son, Fenton, is a demon, and probably told him he's got to go. You've got to chop him too. So if that's what the dad has heard, the dad is actually doing him a kindness or a mercy by trying to say, let me try one last crazy thing here to turn my son around so I don't have to admit my son's a demon and kill him. I want him to see the light.
And at the very end of this ordeal, he does. He tells him he saw God and he knows what he has to do now.
That's what he says. Want to see if it actually turns out that way. Young Fenton goes along with his father to kidnap the next demon victim on his list. They bring the man back to the cellar, and Dad hands Fenton the axe so he can deliver the killing blow. But at the last moment, Fenton pivots and he buries the axe in his father's chest. As he lays dying, Mr. Meeks whispers a final message in the ear of young Adam. The dad dies. But as Fenton goes to untie the man they kidnapped, Adam brings down the axe on the man's head, destroying the demon as his father had intended. So as the two boys bury their father and his final victim, Fenton extracts a promise from his little brother Adam. He says if Adam ever destroys him, he wants Adam to bury Fenton right there in the rose garden. By this point in the story, Agent Doyle has reached Thurman and the two men are walking through the rose garden. Hearing this part of the story, Doyle breaks in to complain the story doesn't make sense because Adam promised Fenton he'd bury him in the rose garden, not the other way around. The grown Meek says it does make sense because he's actually not Fenton. He is Adam. He destroyed his brother Fenton when he realized Fenton had grown up to become a serial killer. In flashback, we see that his father's victims were truly guilty of horrible crimes and that Adam did actually share the visions of the demon's evil sins as his father laid his hands on each one. Adam reveals that he's been carrying on God's work of destroying demons ever since. And, in fact, Agent Doyle is next on his list for murdering his own mother. Doyle tells Adam he can't get away with this, that the FBI will find him, but Adam is sure that God will protect him. He kills Doyle with his father's axe, and he buries him right there in the rose garden. The next day, another FBI agent from the Dallas office comes to speak to a small-town sheriff about Doyle's disappearance. But the sheriff who greets him, it's none other than Adam Meeks. The agent doesn't recognize Meeks, despite having met him the night before, and he admits in frustration that due to mysterious glitches, all the security cameras failed to capture the face of the man who came to see Doyle that night. Nevertheless, he did leave his name, so the FBI raided the house belonging to Fenton Meeks, where they found Doyle's bloody badge and the bodies of all the God's Hand victims in the basement. Adam Meeks thanks the agent for the sad news about his brother, shakes the agent's hand, sees no visions, and tells him, "You're a good man."
I did want to shore up one piece of housekeeping here. I don't think we mentioned in the Act 1 synopsis about Doyle's mom, but that is like a plot point that comes up a few times, that Agent Doyle, the Powers Boothe character, his mother was murdered and the murderer was never found, so he keeps this picture of his mom on his desk, which is why when it comes back around that Doyle was actually the one who killed his mom, it's a bit more of a shock. It would be a nothing reveal if we hadn't already been invested in that story.
Yes, and Fenton, or the guy who we think was Fenton, was asking him about his mom multiple times. Oh, you got this picture on your desk and tell me the story. And so you're invested in that. And then when he reveals that Doyle killed his mom, it's not just like a shallow accusation. Doyle goes, "How did you know?" Like, it's real. He knew. Really did kill his mom.
Yeah, and on a rewatch, there's some stuff that really works in those early scenes between Doyle and Fendham, the Fenton Adam character. I guess we'll just call him Adam from here on out. But when Doyle first walks into his own office and Adam's already sitting there, he is holding the picture of Doyle's mom so that when Doyle goes to shake his hand, because if he were to shake his hand, they'd be revealed to each other. Yes. He just hands him the picture back and goes, "Is that your mom?" And then they carry on. And then when they decide to drive to Thurman, Doyle gives him handcuffs, like throws them at him and tells him to cuff himself or he'll do it for him. Yes. Again, they don't have to touch. And then Adam won't let Doyle help him into the backseat of the police car. He says, "I got it," before he puts a hand on him. So just interesting stuff that isn't necessary, but it's just a little extra bonus for attentive viewers on a rewatch.
Yeah, a movie like this is really fun on second watch because you catch all those things. Another little subtle clue that I thought I noticed was going on having to do with Adam cuffing himself. He's really skillful with handcuffs. And that's like a hint that when later we find out he's a sheriff, like he knows what he's doing with a pair of handcuffs.
And Doyle even says, "You have good instincts like a cop. You ever think about becoming a cop?"
He's like, "I don't want to talk about it."
I don't talk about it. I want a little Elvis there. I don't want to talk about him.
That was Bubba Hotep style.
Don't talk to me about him, Mom. I did the Austin Butler. Now I'm stuck as Elvis. That's a real thing.
It's happened to better actors than you.
It's going in the DSM-6 Elvis syndrome. No, but let's go back to the first big moment of the third act, which is where they kidnap this guy and it's supposed to be Fenton's first killing. They pick such a this is the first actual demon, besides the sheriff, who wasn't actually a demon, that they grab. This guy sucks so bad.
He looks real shifty. He's got a great evil guy face. He yells at his girlfriend or wife or whatever and calls her names.
All she says is like, "Who's at the door?" And he goes, "Mind your business, you fucking bitch." I was like,
and he's like, "Fucking women." He's like a real misogynist and just like an abusive guy.
And you almost get the vibe that he senses something's amiss here because he's like, "What's up with the gloves?" Right away. In the way like maybe a ne'er-do-well might be on edge all the time.
Exactly. He's a criminal and he recognizes criminal behavior because he's like, "Oh, they're trying to roll me. They got gloves, they got pipes." And so then you feel like he's like, "Okay, I'll go in my garage and get you the tire iron you're asking me for." You almost think that the victim is setting them up. Like he's going to...
Yeah, he's going to turn the tables on him somehow.
He's going to whack them in his garage because, come to the back of the house. I'll help you out.
But no, he's actually just wants to give him a tire iron.
He is maybe just going to hand him the tire iron. He gets spooked because Fenton, in his nervousness, makes a noise and he sees that the dad is about to whack him. So he gets a couple whacks in with the tire iron before they subdue him.
And Fenton's actually the one who subdues him. He hits him with something. I don't know if it was the pipe or what. And then the dad's able to knock him out.
Yeah, he's dragged in, even though he's wishing he could stop this. He's dragged into it. The thing I realized is that Fenton was radicalized in that pit, in that cellar. He was locked down there. And the whole time when his dad comes and gets him and says, have you changed your mind? He's like, yes, God told me I've seen the light. He's lying. He is now, in essence, become a sort of evil character because he's plotting to kill his dad this whole time. He's like, no, Dad, I'm with you. I'm sorry I ever doubted you. Let's do a murder together. But his plan is to kill his dad, right?
Yeah, so it becomes a real chicken and the egg situation here. The angel has already told Mr. Meeks Fenton is a demon, but then is locking him in the cellar what turned him into a demon. But I'm not sure he's fully there yet, even after that, because he's still very upset when Adam takes the axe and kills the demon too. So it's like,
right,
he's not fully desensitized to murder yet. He did everything he did not to get revenge on his dad, but to stop the killings. That was still his goal.
Exactly. He still has good in his heart. He hasn't turned into the demon that he becomes apparently some point later in life. He's going out and literally torture killing people.
Keeping them in his basement, which is not the way to dispose of demons.
Yeah, it's not at all the angel's way. It's his own demonic way. So he definitely loses it at some point in between the two parts of the story that we see on screen.
It is an interesting thing, though, if you follow a lot of serial killer origin stories, watch like Mindhunter, things like that. A lot of them were put in isolation for long periods of time as children.
Ooh.
So there is something to that theory that is what kind of broke his mind and turned him into the God's Hand killer eventually.
There's a lot to ponder. I mean, that's one of the great things about this movie is you can take it one way that it just had this basic 180 twist that the dad was correct the whole time and Fenton was the one who was confused because he didn't have enough faith to see the truth. But that leaves those open questions. Like we said, did God engineer it so that Fenton became traumatized enough to become a demon? Like, that's not great. Even if you think that the killings were justified, that's a pretty bad outcome for this kid who seems altogether very innocent.
It does call into question the nature of the God in this world, which I don't think is an accident. I think the movie is trying to draw your attention to that.
And I think there's still a way to think about it. It's perfectly okay if you decide actually the dad and Adam were crazed the whole time, that they just shared delusions, that the angel thing was never real. They just got into this sort of shared psychosis together, or the dad pulled Adam into it, and then that ruined Fenton for life as well, despite the fact there's some hard to explain evidence for things that people knew and stuff.
I think there's too much in favor of the fact that these were real demons and they were actually doing the will of God in terms of like security camera being blurred, all the kind of...
Oh, that's true. And the way the FBI agent literally says, I saw him, but somehow I can't remember his face. That is supernatural. You're right.
Yeah, there is a real supernatural element to how they get away with all of this, which I think places the movie firmly in the camp that it doesn't really want you to be questioning if it was real or not. It's definitively telling you that everything Adam said, you can take at face value, more or less.
Yeah, but the thing that it leaves you with then is, can I trust God? Is God actually good or is he pretty fucked up? Because at the end, it leaves with this very pious sheriff, Adam, and his pregnant wife standing on the curb going, yeah, God's will was done. Everything's good. And it's like, everything's not that good. Fenton's life was pretty fucked up.
The sheriff of what town?
Interesting that you asked that. He's not the sheriff of Thurman, which is the town we mostly hear about where they grew up.
Right, he moved away.
He moved one town over.
So what's the name of the town?
Sheriff of the town of Meade, Texas.
I swear, like, I know they say it a couple times in the movie. I thought they were saying like Meade, like Meade, because I think that's a real place in Texas. As far as I could tell, Meat, Texas, as in like beef, pork, or chicken, that kind of meat spelt that way, is not a real city, which means they invented this town for the movie. And in a movie that has almost no sense of humor, this is by far the funniest thing about it.
It's very weird. And like you said, you can almost miss it because it's just said a couple times over the phone. There's just a sheriff of Meat. And you're like, okay, that could be a German name, could be spelled M-E-I-T. It could be any number of things. But no, Arby's has this town. This is the town of Meat. And the very poignant ending of the film, which is like your head is spinning because you've just been triple twisted with all the layers to the twists about what's real and who's a killer and who's a brother and all this stuff. They have these evocative scenes on the street. And man, the set decorator went to town. It's like, you're going to know that you're in Meat in any shot. Maybe we should post some of those screenshots.
Yeah.
First place I noticed the name of the town, Farmer's Bank of Meat, is over the doorway on this bank.
That sounds like it could just be like a big freezer, like the Farmer's Bank of Meat. Are they keeping like the sides of beef in there?
Yeah, like there's a meat bank. Do farmers bank their meat? That's really weird. And then it pans over, and then you see the Greyhound station, and it says Meat, and it says Sheriff Station Meat. I mean, I've heard of Meet Me in St. Louis, but St. Louis me and meat?
Boo. There's a paper boy throwing out the local paper, the Daily Meat. We actually have some words from the mayor of Meat, Texas. He gave a statement about the events of the movie Frailty.
Oh, yeah, that's a very thoughtful statement. Let's insert that here.
Okay.
Listen to me. It doesn't matter what you look like on the outside, whether you're white or black or Sasquatch even. As long as you follow your dream, no matter how crazy or against the law it is.
Forget it, meatwad.
Whatever.
Wow. Powerful
Yeah.
words from Meatwad from
Yes.
Aqua Teen Hunger Force, aka the mayor of Meat, Texas. Thanks for sending that in.
Yeah.
Dead serious movie that just decides to insert. I don't even know if it's an attempt at humor or just kind of the first draft of the town name. And they were like, fuck it. We already sent the order to get all the props made.
Yeah, it's like maybe it meant something to the screenwriter. Maybe it meant something to Paxton himself, who was from Texas.
From Fort Worth, not Meat.
Yeah, it's very strange.
I've apologized profusely if Meat, Texas is actually a place, but I've done at least 4 minutes of research and can't find any evidence that it's real.
That seals it. When they say meat is murder, they're not kidding.
Oh boy, there's a lot of puns we could have played around with. We really waited till the third act to bring out the Meat, Texas. Really? All right, let's Frailty. Do you want to hear where these folks all ended up?
Yes,
Hopefully not in the meat grinder.
the bank of meat.
So Paxton, let's talk about him as a director. There's not much to say. He directed this and The Greatest Game Ever Played, which was a Shia LaBeouf golf drama, sports movie that I never saw. I have a distaste for LaBeouf, but this movie was so good. I might try to check it out. I don't know. But it didn't get as shining reviews as Frailty did.
Okay.
It's a little showier in the direction. I watched the trailer at least. There's a lot of shots of like the golf balls POV, stuff like that. He was trying to
Okay.
get a little fancy with it.
Interesting.
He died sadly on February 25th. Well, I mean, that's obvious, but he died on February 25th, 2017. He was only 61 years old. He had heart surgery, and then he suffered a stroke 11 days after. There was a long legal battle between his estate and the hospital to
Wow.
determine liability. But yeah, very sad. I remember when I heard the news that he had died, I was like, that's fucking crazy. He's so young. He felt like he was still popping up and stuff. Great till the end. Always love seeing him pop up in anything.
Yeah, really charming actor and a presence. He's sadly missed.
I will give his acting career a little bit of attention later, but I like to do the writer director first and then the actors.
Sure.
So not much to say about Brent Hanley. This is the only movie he ever wrote, which blows my mind because as good as the movie is, you can give the script a lot of credit for that.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is not boilerplate. This is a really complex story that, and it, like we said, it handles the family life really tenderly and believably, and this psychological drama really deftly that requires all this careful work to keep these secrets hidden and reveal them at the right times. It's quite a piece of work. Like, what happened to him?
He still was trying to write up until the late aughts. He wrote an episode of the TV series Masters of Horror, and he wrote a short called Day 73 with Sarah. That's all I can find, though, unfortunately.
Weird. That's mysterious.
He worked in the script department for Holes in 2003. I have to assume he just found another career. Hopefully he's teaching like screenwriting somewhere.
I hope something good happened to him because, especially for a debut in the only movie he wrote, it's quite an achievement.
Yeah. All right. So this was pre The Reconnaissance. He was in the middle of his romantic comedy period, like we mentioned, though he did find time to make Rain of Fire.
Of course, you got to make time for Rain of Fire.
You got to. Did we like Rain of Fire? I don't remember. I think we thought it was silly but fun.
Yeah, it had some annoying parts, and I think we had some fun with it too.
Yeah, that sounds about right for what I remember about that movie. Like I mentioned, Tropic Thunder in 2008 felt like a positive turning point for him. By the early 2010s, he was starring in stuff like Killer Joe, Mud, Magic Mike, Dallas Buyers Club, Interstellar.
Yeah.
Working with Nolan seemed like a big thing for him. 2014 also saw one of his most iconic roles, which it feels like he was warming up for with Frailty as Rust Cole on True Detective.
Sure.
Season 1 of that show, still a massive achievement. He is reuniting with Woody Harrelson actually for an upcoming show, but not a fictional narrative show. It is a reality TV show where they investigate the possibility that they are actually brothers, because that was something that came out
Whoa.
throughout the course of their friendship. They might actually be half brothers.
That is so weird.
And the show is called Brothers. I think it's going to Apple TV Plus at some point in the near future. I don't know how much time I want to spend with Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey when they're not acting, because they both seem, no offense, like fucking Cracker Jacks. Woody Harrelson especially, he just seems like a crazy person.
A little bit.
Might be fun for an episode or two, though.
Yeah.
And he just had a movie I was curious to check out, The Lost Bus on Apple TV Plus. Got pretty positive reviews. He's driving a bus of school kids through a forest fire.
Based on the true story, I think, of the Paradise Fire, which was somewhere in California, that notorious fire that just absolutely wiped out a whole town, took it off the map.
Oh, wow. They turned that around quick then.
I think that's what this is. I understand the trailer.
It's out now. I will
Okay.
probably check it out. Maybe I'll bring it for show and tell next time. He's also starred in the very interesting revenge thriller, The Rivals of Amzia King, from director Andrew Patterson. Patterson directed the very underrated sci-fi movie, The Vast of Night, from 2019 that I was a big fan of.
Oh.
This is his first feature since then. It's still looking for a distributor, though, but it's done. It's in the can.
That's cool. So that's McConaughey's in that with Patterson?
Yeah, I would very much like to see that, so I hope they find a distributor soon.
Fast and Night was that 50s radio host and the aliens come down.
Very low budget sci-fi.
Super low budget, but really creative and really well done. I was excited by that director, so I'm very curious to see his next feature film.
And it sounds right up our alley. crime revenge thriller. Yes, gimme. Paxton, he got into acting mostly in the early 80s, had some top-notch horror performances, including Aliens and Near Dark.
Yeah.
He did blockbusters like True Lies, Apollo 13, Edge of Tomorrow, which we've been talking about a lot lately, and Twister, while doing smaller movies like A Simple Plan, Haven, and future episode Haywire.
Ooh, okay.
He was also the lead for 5 seasons of HBO series Big Love, which I watched, I think, the first 2 seasons maybe, and then I lost interest in it. It also had our gal, Jean Triplehorn.
Oh, okay. I remember Big Love was kind of a thing. Didn't maybe make it to the top tier of HBO prestige shows that everybody watches, but it got close in its time.
For sure. It was just below that. It was still prestige TV, but it wasn't like The Sopranos. I think it lacked the bombacity of some of those more violent shows, to be honest. It was a quieter drama about families. He was also the co-lead in the miniseries Hatfield and McCoys with Kevin Costner. I think he played either the Hatfield or the McCoy.
He must have.
Powers Boothe, reliable, tough guy in movies since the late 70s. And the original Red Dawn. Worked with Paxton quite a bit, actually. So he worked with him in this movie, worked with him in Tombstone, Hatfield and McCoy's. He was also on in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which Paxton also had a role on.
Oh, I didn't realize.
Yeah. Some of Powers Booth's other credits include Con Air, U-Turn, Sin City, and of course, we'll always remember him for MacGruber.
Yes.
Sadly, he also died in 2017 of pancreatic cancer.
Man, another loss.
Another loss. He was a bit older than Paxton, so it wasn't maybe quite as shocking, but still very sad.
Yeah. I always got to shout out everybody's roles in Deadwood. Did we mention that he plays the rival saloon owner?
I did not, but thank you for doing so.
Cy Tolliver. I just looked up the name of that character. Another great Powers Booth role.
Feels like a guy that could have been on Justified, but wasn't.
Absolutely.
Somehow.
He could have had a whole season arc around him easily.
I wanted to talk about Jeremy Sumpter a little bit. He played young Adam. I wanted to give him some credit because he's still acting.
Oh, neat.
It's cool when you see a child actor able to maintain their career.
Yeah.
I recognized him from seasons 3 and 4 of Friday Night Lights, J.D. McCoy, like I mentioned, but he was also the lead in 2003's Peter Pan movie.
Oh.
And he's been acting steadily in mostly smaller projects. In 2024, he was in both Chapel and The Fall. No credits for 2025 yet, but that's recent enough to draw the conclusion that he's still working.
Good for him.
And then Matt O'Leary also was able to maintain an acting career into his adulthood. He had a pretty promising career for a while. He started off in stuff like The Alamo, Brick, which I think Bill Paxton was in The Alamo too, or if not, like he should have been.
He could have been.
Which we'll have to cover that too. Alamo was a big bomb. Brick, Havoc, Live Free or Die Hard with Timothy Olyphant, Natural Selection, The Lone Ranger, and Welcome to Marwen. So we've already featured him in a movie, and we'll feature him in another one because we've got to do Welcome to Marwen at some point too.
Oh gosh, I guess we do.
He also had TV roles on Santa Clarita Diet with Timothy Olyphant.
There you go.
And Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which I guess employed everybody in Hollywood at some point. Every actor in this movie was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. at some point. He hasn't acted since 2019, but he has released a couple short films that he wrote and directed, and he has another one coming up called A Divine Intervention.
Uh-oh. Flashing back to his youth in 1979.
Yeah. So that is Frailty. It gets one of my highest stamps of approval and recommendation.
Really cool movie. It's not that exciting. I wouldn't pitch it to a friend like, oh my God, you got to see this. You're going to have so much fun. Not because you won't have fun, but it's a low-key movie. Like you have to be a little bit ready for its vibe, but it's so good.
It is low-key. I think that's a good disclaimer to put out there. Don't go into it expecting blood and guts and thrills. It's more quiet, contemplative, but affecting.
Really nice movie.
Ian, do you want to hear about what we're doing next? I'm not going to give it away, but I will give you some hints.
I'm very curious. Wrapping up Blastober here.
Wrapping up Blastober with a movie from one of the most famous and successful horror novelists of all time.
Oh.
He only directed 3 movies. This was his last one.
Okay.
It was from 1995. And one of the movies he directed, not this one, is considered an all-timer classic of the 80s in the horror genre.
That's a very detailed clue. And I feel like anybody who really knows horror writers and horror movies, especially 80s classics, will know exactly what it is. And anybody who doesn't pay attention was absolutely not helped by your clue. But
which camp do you fall into?
I already knew what it was, so I don't know. The name wouldn't have come to mind who you're talking about. But once I knew, I would be like, oh, of course.
Yeah, it's a lesser known movie, I think, especially by today's standards. So I wanted to telegraph it a little bit.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Thank you guys so much for listening. Please remember to rate, review, subscribe to the podcast. We appreciate that. Helps new listeners find the pod.
We really do.
Follow us on Twitter at BlastZonePod or Blue Sky. Is it BlastZonePod, BlueSky.com or the other way around?
I think it's BlastZonePod.bsky.social, but that's fine.
Whatever. You could find us on there by just looking up Blast Zone. There's not that many accounts with that name.
Use our name.
You can also email us if you have any movie reviews, questions, suggestions, just want to chat about movies at blastzonepod@gmail.com. Love hearing from the listeners.
Yeah, we like that.
And we'll see you next time in the Blast Zone.
See you next time in the Blast Zone.
The Blast Zone.